Spartanburg and declaring said property annexed to and part and parcel of the city of Spartanburg. Said parcel be zoned R15 single-family residential district upon annexation. First reading, presenter Ms. Stephanie Moore, Planning Department Director.
Thank you, Mayor, member of council. What I have before you is a 100% petition and ordinance filed by homeowners Stephen, Scott, and Donna Sandor at 128 Mabry Drive. This is the property here that's in question. These properties along here are currently in the city, and this was part of the annexation that council worked on last year, along with some of the properties down here. So this will be filling in kind of that hole right there. Typically, all annexation requests will go to the Planning Commission for a zoning recommendation only if the request is other than R15. Once it's R15, it can come straight to council. So with that, I have before you a petition and ordinance filed by the homeowners at 128 requesting to be annexed to the city. Any questions for me?
Any questions? Ms. Monroe? I'd like to declare a public hearing. Does anybody like to speak in favor of this proposed rezoning? Anybody in opposition of it?
Yeah. Move that the public hearing is closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 7, Part B. Designated as a local historical district, the Beaumont Village neighborhood in Spartanburg, South Carolina, pursuant to the requirements of Section 510-5 or .5 of the City Spartanburg zoning ordinance, and accepting the Beaumont Village designated guidelines as the standards that will govern the Beaumont Village Historical District. And the presenter is Stephanie Monroe, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. What I have before you is a request made by the Beaumont Village Neighborhood Association to designate portions of the Beaumont Village on the local registry of historic places, historic district. Before I go into details of the requirement, I would like to have Mr. Martin Meek come and give a short presentation on Beaumont Mills, the local historic district. This was done, council had the pleasure of having this kind of overview about a year ago, but I know we have a couple of new council members on board, so I thought it would be great if we can go over this presentation just to give you kind of some background information before I go into the process and some other information about it. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Meek.
And Martin, you thought you were gonna have to work for that, didn't you?
Mayor and council, it's a pleasure again to be in front of you. The Beaumontville Village is the most intact mill village in the city of Spartanburg. It has a very complicated and layered history. The mill village was started in the 1880s, developed as the mill developed. There was a building period around 1915. The section down Liberty Street starts to develop. If we can move forward to the next slide, please. Clicker. All right. Hit that little side button. To the right. Good. In this particular slide, you can see the connectivity that we had at one time between the center business district. Liberty Street came through the center business district, turned, went across, and was the main connecting thoroughfare between this part of the city and the downtown area. That connectivity is now gone. Almost half of the mill itself is no longer extant. What we do have that is an important cultural resource for the city is this incredibly compact neighborhood. There are a number of phases. Some of the earlier houses that were adjacent to the mill were demolished. Next phase is the pink phase that is dating about 1907. Then the darker blue area, or bluish purple area, was developed around 27, and then the third phase, which is the green section, is around 1940-41. The Sanborn insurance maps are important maps that help us to be able to discern the development of this neighborhood. You can see the main thoroughfare that's connecting the city center with this village. The development of a very strong group of arts and crafts houses along Liberty Street. Most of the houses have been altered to some extent, but the rhythm and massing, roof structures, and a lot of the character defining elements are still intact in this neighborhood. There are 14 different house types in the neighborhood, which give this neighborhood a great deal of residential diversity. We won't go through all the different house types, but the typical smaller early ones, the pyramidal cottage and the saddlebag, were some of the more modest houses. We get a development in the 1920s with some of the arts and crafts elements. And then the last development around the beginning of World War II, the federal government actually gave grants to industries that would develop products for the war effort. And Beaumont Mills was one of the areas that was heavily gifted with colonial revival, sort of Cape Cod colonial style houses. Stephanie?
Thank you, Mr. Meek. I hope that gave you guys a quick overview of Beaumont Mills, and by any means, if you have any questions, I'm sure Mr. Meek will be around to answer them. What I'd like to do is present before you the request and kind of give you a little bit of information on the process. Then I'll give you some information on an overview of the Beaumont Village neighborhood, the process they went through. Then I'll end it with action requested. Again, the City of Spartanburg zoning ordinance lays out the general requirements to designate a district or place a district on a pending list. Those requirements are laid out in section 510 of the zoning ordinance, and I'll read. Local designation can be initiated by Historic Architect Review Board, which is the HARB, City Council, or by petition of at least 10 city residents, or by petition of the owner of an individual property. The HARB reviews and designates requests and makes a determination whether it is appropriate to recommend permanent designation to City Council. The HARB has up to 1 year to make its recommendation to Council and may place a property on the pending historic site list for up to 1 year. So once staff presents an application to HARB, they can vote to place a property or properties on a pending list, and they have up to 1 year to review the requirements that's laid out before them before they make the recommendation to Council. Prior to placing a property on the pending list, the HARB will hold a public hearing regarding the possible designation. And HARB held that public hearing, and that public hearing was held on July 9th, and then subsequently they held another one on February 11th of 2010. City Council is required to confirm the pending designation within 1 year of the pending designation will expire. So if no action is taken within 1 year, then automatically the properties on the pending list fall off the pending list, for lack of better words. Once HARB makes a recommendation to Council, which I'm doing on their behalf tonight, Council may reject the pending list, or they can amend the pending list. On this map, and the map that you've received tonight as well, highlight all the properties on the proposed pending list. As we've stated in our report, there are 319 properties included in this pending list. Next, I'll talk about the